Tomy was a bright and cheerful 10-year-old boy who always had a spark in his eyes. He loved school, not just for the classes, but for the laughter, the games, the endless chatter with his friends. His teachers often praised him for his curiosity, his eagerness to learn, and his kindness toward others. Everyone liked Tomy, but school was just one part of his day, and the other part, the one that came after school, felt very different. Every afternoon as the final school bell rang and children rushed out into the sun with wide grins and swinging backpacks, Tomy's smile would slowly begin to fade. His friends talked excitedly about going home to their parents. Some would be taken out for ice cream, some had movie plans, and others were going to play in their backyard with their dads. But Tomy, he would just go home, alone. He lived in a quiet apartment on the fifth floor of a tall, gray building. It had a big window that overlooked the city, and sometimes when he was bored, Tomy would sit by it, watching the cars below, counting how many red ones passed by. His father worked at a large corporate office downtown. He always wore crisp suits, shiny shoes, and smelled like coffee and paper. He was smart and quiet and always on the phone. His mother was a doctor, kind and strong, always rushing between patients and hospitals, wearing her white coat and carrying a bag full of papers and stethoscopes. They loved Tomy. There was no doubt about that. But they were busy, very busy. Tomy's school ended at 3 p.m. His parents usually came home around 8 p.m. That left 5 long, silent hours every day. 5 hours that Tomy spent in a home that felt too big, too quiet, and too cold without them. It wasn't like Tomy hadn't tried telling them. Many times as they ate dinner together or sat in the living room, him curled up on one end of the couch and them checking emails on their phones, he would start, "Mom, Dad, can we maybe play a game after dinner?" His father would glance at him with a tired smile. "Maybe tomorrow, buddy. Dad's a little tired today." His mother would kiss his forehead. "I'll try, Tomy. Just have to finish this report first, okay?" So Tomy learned to nod and smile. He learned to say it's okay, even when it wasn't. And he learned to keep his feelings to himself. But the truth was, the house didn't feel like a home without them. He would microwave leftovers, set the table for one, and eat quietly. The TV would play in the background, but the sound always felt distant. The walls echoed differently when you were alone. Even laughter felt out of place. Sometimes he would open the photo albums, the ones filled with baby pictures of him in his parents' arms, and wonder when things had changed. When had the house stopped being loud and full of warmth? One rainy Thursday afternoon, Tomy finally said it out loud. His mother had just come home, drenched and exhausted. She dropped her bag on the table, slipped off her wet shoes, and sank into the sofa. Tomy sat beside her, legs folded. "Mom," he said softly, "I don't like being alone." She looked at him, surprised. "No one plays with me, and it gets really quiet." For a moment, she didn't know what to say. Her heart ached. She knew they were missing out on moments with him, but they had bills, responsibilities, patience, deadlines. "We know, Tomy," she said gently, brushing his hair back. "We really do. And we're so sorry. We have to work hard so we can make sure everything is good for you." Tomy looked down. He didn't cry. He wasn't angry, but the sadness in his eyes said everything. He didn't want toys, or gifts, or new clothes. He just wanted them. That night, as Tomy lay in bed, his parents sat in the kitchen talking. "We're losing him," his mother whispered. His father sighed, running his hand through his hair. "I know. I feel it too. But what do? We can't just quit our jobs. There has to be something, someone who can be there when we can't." And then she remembered someone. Shrimati, my sister. Shrimati was her older sister, warm, lively, and full of stories. She lived alone in a cozy little house about 15 minutes away. She had no children of her own, but she adored Tomy. Whenever she visited, she brought him little gifts and called him her champ. Maybe she can help, just for a while. The next day, Tomy's mother sat beside him at breakfast, holding a cup of tea. "Tomy, how would you feel about spending time with Aunt Shrimati after school?" Tomy's eyes lit up. "Really? Auntie Shrimati? I can see her today." "Yes, she'll pick you up after school and take you to her place. You won't have to stay alone anymore. Tomy grinned so wide his cheeks hurt. That afternoon, as the school bell rang, Tomy rushed out the gate. And there she was, standing in a bright red shawl, holding a tiny box wrapped in paper. "Hello, champ," she called, waving. Tomy ran to her and hugged her tight. "What's that?" he asked, pointing to the box. "A little something for my favorite boy," she winked. Inside the box was a small chocolate cake with a note. "To our new afternoons." Tomy laughed and knew this was going to be fun. Aunt Shrimati's house was nothing like Tomy's apartment. It was a small, cheerful cottage tucked between two tall trees, with wind chimes on the porch and flower pots on every windowsill. The walls inside were painted in soft pastels, and the living room smelled faintly of cinnamon and old books. There were photo frames everywhere, some with faded black and white pictures, others filled with colorful memories from birthdays, holidays, and little adventures. A big soft armchair sat by the window, with a crocheted blanket draped over the back. And in the corner sat a radio that played old songs in a language Tomy didn't understand, but somehow liked. Every day after school, Aunt Shrimati would be waiting at the gate, holding something in her hand. Sometimes a small toy, sometimes a snack wrapped in cloth, and sometimes just her warm smile. "Come on, champ," she'd say, "let's go home." Tomy's new routine became something he looked forward to more than anything else. As soon as they reached Aunt Shrimati's house, she would hand him a soft towel to wash his face, give him a chilled glass of mango juice, and ask about his day. "Did that boy Samir bother you again today?" she'd ask. "No, Auntie," Tomy would grin. "I beat him in the math quiz." And she'd clap her hands and cheer like he'd won a gold medal. After that, she would cook something delicious. Hot parathas with sugar, spicy noodles, or sometimes fried bananas with honey. They'd sit together on the rug and eat while watching cartoons. And when the cartoons ended, she would tell him stories. Not just any stories, but strange and magical ones, of talking crows, invisible cities, and lost time machines. Tomy would listen, wide-eyed, forgetting everything else. The loneliness, forgotten. The silence, gone. He would sometimes fall asleep on her lap, and she would stroke his hair gently until he woke up with a smile. It felt like he had found a secret place, a second home, hidden from the rest of the world, where everything was just okay. One evening, after 3 weeks of this joyful new routine, Aunt Shrimati surprised him. "I have something for you," she said, opening a wooden drawer. Inside was a toy car, small, shiny, with blue and red flames painted on the side. Its wheels gleamed in the dim lamplight. Tomy gasped. "Wow, it's amazing! This is my favorite." She chuckled, placing it in his hand. "It's special, Tomy, just like you. I want you to keep it forever." Tomy hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Auntie, you're the best." He didn't notice the way she looked at him for a few seconds longer than usual, or the way her smile lingered strangely as she said, "You're like my little brother, you know. I never had one, but now I do." Tomy didn't understand what that meant. He was just happy. He played with the car for hours that night, but he didn't know. Something was beginning to shift. It started subtly. One afternoon, Aunt Shrimati said, "Tomy, I want to play a special game today." Tomy looked up from his toy car, curious. "What kind of game?" She smiled. "A secret game, only between you and me. We can't tell anyone else, okay?" Tomy hesitated but nodded. It sounded fun? Exciting? She pulled out a box. It was filled with colorful marbles, buttons, a blindfold, and some cards. The rules didn't make much sense, but she laughed and clapped as they played. It wasn't scary, not yet. But when he accidentally dropped a marble and reached to pick it up, she held his hand. A little too long. Her smile was warm, but something about it didn't feel right. Tomy didn't know why his stomach felt funny. Over the next few days, the special games became more frequent. They weren't bad exactly, but they started to feel confusing. Aunt Shrimati would say strange things during the game. Sometimes she would sit too close. Sometimes she'd ask him to say things that made no sense. Tomy didn't know what to think. He still loved spending time with her. The stories, the food, the hugs. But now a small shadow had crept into that world. A tiny discomfort that whispered, something's not right. Tomy couldn't shake the strange feelings anymore. One afternoon when Aunt Shrimati said, "Let's play our special game," Tomy pulled his hand back. I, I don't want to play today, he said softly. Aunt Shrimati looked at him, her smile faltering just for a second, and then she laughed quietly. "It's okay, Tomy," she said. "You've done the right thing." But her words didn't make Tomy feel better. They made his heart beat faster. He didn't understand why he was uncomfortable, only that he was. That night, Tomy couldn't sleep. He hugged his toy car and stared at the ceiling, his chest heavy with something he couldn't name. The next day at school, Tomy waited until the class ended. He walked up to his teacher and whispered, "Miss, my auntie is acting strangely with me." His teacher paused, her expression serious. She bent down to his level and said gently, "You're very brave, Tomy. What you said is absolutely right. We're here for you." She didn't ask him for proof. She didn't tell him to keep quiet. She believed him. The school contacted his parents. His mother rushed in, hugging him tightly. His father looked pale and shaken. The police were called. Action was taken. Tomy didn't understand all the big words the adults used. Investigation, psychological evaluation, protective measures. But he understood one thing. He wasn't alone anymore. His parents took time off work. They started coming home early, spending their evenings with him, playing board games, helping with homework, making popcorn and watching movies on the couch. They took him to a counselor too, someone who spoke softly and listened carefully. With time, Tomy began to share what he had felt, what had confused him, what had scared him, and slowly, the fear faded. One day, weeks later, Tomy walked up to his teacher again. "Thank you, miss," he said, "for helping me." She smiled warmly and knelt beside him. "You're very brave, Tomy," she said, "because you spoke up, others will too. You helped more than just yourself." Tomy blinked. "Really?" She nodded. "Yes. You've shown everyone that if something doesn't feel right, it's okay to say it out loud." Tomy's world wasn't the same anymore, but it was growing safer. He had learned something powerful. If something feels wrong, even if you can't explain why, you must tell someone. And the people who love you, they will listen. They will believe you, and they will protect you. Tomy wasn't just a smart, lively 10-year-old boy anymore. He was brave, and he would always remember that being brave doesn't mean having no fear. It means speaking up even when you do.